Hi, I'm Samantha, and I did read over 100 books last year, and I thought it'd be kind of fun to review those books with you. Because my channel's so new, I thought it'd be kind of cool to do a little rundown on everything that I read, but I wanted to also give it like a mild review of each book. And I thought, why don't I have the book do the reviewing for me? So what I did was I pulled a quote from each book that I read last year and use that as kind of my illustration of how I felt about the book. In case that doesn't come across enough, I have underneath the cover of the books that you'll see in this collage thingy, I did include my Goodreads rating. Just a couple housekeeping things before I start the roll the video. Quotes aren't perfect. I did pull a few of them from Goodreads quote section, so either I could have misinterpreted them, or maybe I just, maybe they were recorded wrong when whoever posted the quote. So there's that. Plus my delivery could be off, and I did have a tendency to remove situations like he said, she said, and things like that. I didn't always, but every now and then. The books are being reviewed in order of my completion, so that means that some series they're not exactly lined up together. So you do go to my Goodreads page for the 2019 folder. I did actually read 104 books, and if we're going to be really technical, I did reread The Raven Cycle 3 times last year, so add another 8 books to that, plus I did, yeah. So I am only posting one quote for each book. And that other book was my own book, and it's a how-to book, and I thought it was kind of tacky to review my own book anyway, but even though I did on Goodreads, but whatever. So that's it. Let's just jump into my reviews. Well, vices are only sometimes virtues carried to excess. Bilkin and Orla are planning your murder, I say, flustered. Yes. So why did I wake at all? It's sad when people don't realize their worth. Just ask me something. Ask me about my tail. Don't you want to see it? It's easy to believe in something when you win all the time. It's the losses that define a man's faith. Because the opposite of fascism isn't anarchy, it's theater. When the world is fucked, you go to the theater. You go to the shine, and when the bad men come, all there's left to do is to sing them down. You're not blessed or divine or burdened. You're a science experiment. A simple question to identify your true home. Where do you want to die? Its body curls like my favorite whirl of your hair. What happens to the West happens to Snow White, which is to say they both turn into jokes. Never let your life depend on the competence of someone whose life isn't on the line. There are 2 ways to get rid of an anxiety monster, my friend. You take a bath or a nap. I've been eating speed for the last 3 days, and every time I close my eyes, I see centipedes. Were I to promise love in 100 languages, love's beauty far surpasses all such stammerings. Tasting the snake had given him the power to understand the language of animals. I am revolution packed into a suitcase bomb. The past is a black hole cut into the present day, like a wound, and if you come too close, you can get sucked in. You have to keep moving. No one's going to tell you all the things you want to hear all the time. You have to know them yourself. She was a stray, not an epilogue. It takes a whole lot longer to dispose of a body than it does to dispose of a soul, especially if you don't want to leave any evidence of foul play. The most intelligent creatures often make the fewest sounds. I think everyone's a bit bored with the boy-girl romances anyway. Hearts that have been stopped without being damaged can sometimes start again under the right circumstances. When the right circumstances cannot be arranged, lightning can make a surprisingly good substitute. That's just your heart giving your sternum a high five 80 times a second. My God, that's such an incredibly organic bias. The idea that your squishy physical existence is some sort of pinnacle that all programs aspire to. Behold the field in which I grow my fucks. Lay thine eyes upon it and see that it is barren. You were a mermaid, weren't you? That's what Nadia said. I still am, said Cora. I just wear my scales under my skin for now. And when you see beauty in desolation, it changes something inside you. Desolation tries to colonize you. It's interesting to trust one's feet. The heart may yearn for adventure, while the head thinks sensibly of home. The feet are a mixture of the two, dipping first one way and then the other. I think I would remember forgetting that. People who ask questions don't necessarily like being asked questions. You don't threaten the life of a queen and live to tell the tale. Now, taking the life of a queen, now that's another matter. You've lived on a fairyland diet your whole life, which is basically sugar, sugar, and some more sugar. So your normal seems to be a walking type 19 diabetic tumor. Pepsi, drink Coke, get up, get out in the world, and do awesome shit. When something frightens me, it's definitely worth doing. In a country that doesn't discriminate between fame and infamy, the latter presents itself as plainly more achievable. Where do I put in that I'm your daughter, and is there a classy way to do that? This low point is not the book of your life. It is just a chapter. The powdered sugar had caramelized and blackened into a sucking tar pit, in which my lady fingers languished like so many sunk mastodons. I don't know how to be this type of villain. I told her sociopaths are relentlessly charming. Owl said it was important to know how swearing worked and that it was okay under the right circumstances, but that Jane shouldn't swear all the time. Jane definitely swore all the time. She didn't know why, but swearing felt fucking great. She wasn't interested in telling other people's futures. She was interested in going out and finding her own. No, you used nouns and verbs in a pleasing but illogical format. In my experience, the badasses are the most scared. I just avoid being inappropriately frightened. Blue thought this seemed like a reasonable goal. What do you mean Ronan's a magical entity? Is he a demon? Because this all makes sense if so. The ship hung in the sky in much the same way that bricks don't. Men often think they deserve a sticker for treating women as people. Opal came to understand that Adam's car was supposed to be like Ronan's, but that there was something wrong with it called shitbox. You don't look for reasons for why it won't work. You look for reasons for why it will. We're terrified of each other. You can't have courage without fear any more than you can have a ray of sunlight without shadows. I'd like to see you step up to goat class, where I feel you belong. Goat class. She used to be into cannibalism, but now she's into Snickers, mumbling, and shortbread. We're more than the sum total of our choices, that all the paths we might have taken factor somehow into the math of our identity. I think I've been looking for it my whole life, a storm in my body to match the one in my head. I'm sorry. I pace anxiously across the soft moss floor, again unsure of what to do with my arms. Magic doesn't have to be flashy and huge. Sometimes it's the subtle things that are most effective of all. We all have ideas. Sometimes we just need a little help figuring out how to make them happen. But that is how a tragedy like ours or King Lear's breaks your heart, by making you believe that the ending might still be happy, until the very last minute. Tilly might never have been locked up for life had she been more attractive. Yes, she was clearly guilty, but Chicago had dealt with guilty husband killers before, and the pretty ones consistently walked free. Slums are a marvel how human desperation can seem to warp the very laws of physics. Every so often, life hands you a reset button. When it does, you need to press it as hard as you can. You should try having no feelings about it. It's the only way to stay sane. I found a dead body in the cucumber patch, I told them. How very like you, Ophelia said, and carried on, preening her eyebrows. Because we match. I think this is also a Twilight quote. I can't believe you know what a unicorn tastes like. Shut up, Bunce. It was sustainably farmed. We pretty much used up all the trees on the planet, so in a few years, people are just going to get their news off the TV. It always tastes better with a Twizzler straw. Words of wisdom. The most obvious conclusions are the ones I try to avoid. I like it when Ruth smiles. It's almost like talking. So ignore everything that's wrong with our lives, then I can't see how we'll ever make things right. We are made or unmade by our choices. In my next life, I'm gonna be a ballerina. A hardcore ballerina. Sparkly tutus, but also knife throwing. Daggerina. Excuse me, is this an intervention? I'm 79 years old. If I want dessert twice, I'm getting dessert twice. Matthew made a strangled noise. He dropped his head into his hands. You can't blame a book for its story. Her pen had a heart inside, and the nib was a wound in a vein. She stained the page with herself. When faced with a choice, humans almost invariably seek non-action, non-change option, even when one of the presented alternatives is quantifiably and logically more advantageous. She allowed people to act in accordance of their own preconceptions. That hat looks ridiculous. Fortunately, I can change hats while you, sir, are stuck with that face. We die. Think of us like shooting stars, brief but bright. It is to be expected, I suppose, always like a boy in need of protection. Proper loafing requires company. One man lying about is being idle. Two men lying about is a lunch break. If you had to shoot a man, then society had already failed. When your inner world is rich, but your confidence to be outwardly expressive is poor, many things are difficult to explain. Having seen nothing but kerosene lamps for illumination, this was like getting a sudden vision of heaven. I think I was born with my eyes facing the wrong way because they were always looking in my head rather than looking out. What is a life? That is what we were left with. Stories. They were our clothes. She was our age. Cooking is athletic. It requires endurance, sprinting power, and hurdling abilities. You're always on the hunt for the next best song. Yes. It's excitement, the knowledge that I'm about to show people something they've never seen before. That I might change the way they see the world, if only for an hour. The cost of a thing is the amount of what I will call life, which is required to be exchanged for it, immediately or in the long run. I want to believe something so beautiful can exist outside my dreams. To tell you the truth, I wasn't trying to paint the stars. I was trying to paint all the nothing in between the stars. How can the world not be so beautiful when my soul feels so free? You and I were the Romeo and Juliet of friendships, only we were the Juliet and Juliet. Even in my revenge fantasy where all I do is exercise, I can still only do 25 pull-ups. Pull-ups are tough, no joke. Sometimes good wins, sometimes evil does. We do not fight for good's permanent triumph, but for balance. I belong to no one. They never wrote that part down. So that was my 2019. I hope you found this entertaining. If you have a favorite quote from a book that you read last year, let me know in the comments below. If any of these quotes actually piqued your interest in, you know, you want to read the book, I did drop a link to that 2019 folder that you can find down below, and you can sort them by either rating or whatever on Goodreads. I also left a link to my Goodreads page, so you know, we can be buddies. If you think that we have compatible reading tastes, that would be great. That's it. I'll see you around soon. Thank you for watching. Bye.